So torque and horsepower are terms that you often see in adverts for cars, for engines. When people compare performance parts, they're often talking about torque figures and horsepower figures. So what exactly are these terms? Can we perhaps explain it very simply, the difference between these terms and what they mean, so you can make an informed decision when you're comparing different options for your car when it comes to upgrades, or just looking to buy a car and you're comparing the different engine output levels. So horsepower and torque are both measures of engine output. So in its very simplest form, and I really am going to oversimplify this, I can lift 70 kilograms. So you might describe that as my horsepower. I can lift 70 kilograms. That's my capacity. Horsepower has a massive bearing on the top speed of a car, of how much power that engine can produce. So while it's nice to know how much I can lift, how strong I am, an employer would be far more interested in how much work I can get done. And if I was able to use tools such as a wheelbarrow, I would be able to achieve far more work. So torque really does express the amount of work the engine can do, and it varies depending on gearing and other factors involved. So horsepower is a measurement of power, the rate at which work is done, whereas torque is the rotational equivalent of linear force. It's that capability you have to make a change in the rotational motion of the body. So doing a nut up, rotating anything, but it's very much related to the distance. So if you change the distance between the point where the force is applied and the point where the torque is measured, it will affect the torque figure. You'll get greater turning force, which is the simple principle of leverage. When it comes to torque, that is an aspect of the gearing and the amount of work that that engine can actually do. So it's probably a better measure of how well that engine can pull. So if you were buying a tractor, you would have a different requirement to if you were buying a sports car. So in the tractor, you would want quite a high torque output. It does a lot of work at fairly low RPMs. So you'll notice that the lines always cross over on a horsepower and torque curve, and that's because they are a factor of each other. So to calculate torque, you need the horsepower figure, and you need to divide this by the RPM divided by 5,252, and that's why the graph will always cross at 5,252 RPMs. So torque effectively magnifies that lower RPM range and just gives you an idea how much work that engine can do at the lower end. So you'll notice that diesel engines tend to have quite a high torque output, but they have a fairly limited RPM range. They feel much quicker off the line. They feel like they can really pull, and they're really good at towing, whereas a gasoline car tends to produce its torque and power slightly further up the RPM range. So when you buy a car, really, unless you've got some sort of performance aim like drag racing or some sort of track work, what you really want is a nice flat torque curve. You want that power through as much of the rev range as possible, so your gears can fully exploit that rev range. So as you change gear, you're effectively changing the amount of work that you can derive from that engine power. So torque is actually a fairly good indicator of how you will get on with the car and how it will perform in its acceleration off the line and its ability to pull. So there's a lot more to it, but don't make the mistake that torque and horsepower are different. They're not. They're both a measure of engine power, but one is telling you how much work the engine can do, and the other is telling you how much work the engine can do at a distance with the benefit of all of the gearing and the output through the wheels and everything. So I hope that explanation has helped. If you've got another simple explanation that you've been told, please pop it up in the comments. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.